They put him in the nursing home because he kept talking about Soviet secrets, dead drops, and assassination codes. His family thought it was dementia. The Russian hit squad thought he was just a confused old man, until he remembered who he really was. Welcome to Those Who Left a Trace, the channel that honors the forgotten heroes who changed the world in silence. Today I'm going to tell you about a man whose supposed mental illness was actually the key to preventing an international assassination. Tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from today? And if you believe that sometimes our mind protects us by forgetting what we need to survive, hit that subscribe button, because this story will show you the incredible power of buried memories. September 23rd, 2024, 2:15 p.m., 82-year-old Viktor Petrov sits in the common room of Sunset Manor Nursing Home in Portland, Oregon, staring out the rain-streaked window with eyes that seem to see something far beyond the parking lot. His weathered hands rest on a worn chess set. The pieces arranged in a position that would take most players hours to achieve, but Viktor has set them up from memory in under 3 minutes. The other residents avoid Viktor's table, not because he's unfriendly, but because his conversations drift into territories that make everyone uncomfortable. Soviet intelligence networks, Cold War assassination techniques, names and dates from operations that officially never happened. The staff has labeled it confabulation, a common symptom of dementia, where patients create elaborate false memories to fill gaps in their recollection. But Dr. Sarah Chun, the facility's head psychiatrist, has begun to notice something unusual about Viktor's delusions. The technical details are too precise, the operational procedures too sophisticated, the historical context too accurate for simple fantasy. When Viktor describes the layout of KGB headquarters in Lubyanka, he includes details about ventilation systems and security protocols that weren't declassified until decades after the Soviet Union fell. Viktor's daughter, Elena Williams, visits every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. She's a successful immigration lawyer in downtown Portland, educated at Harvard Law, fluent in 4 languages, and deeply ashamed of her father's condition. For 3 years, she's watched him deteriorate from the brilliant mathematician who raised her alone after her mother's death to a confused old man who insists he was once a Soviet intelligence officer. The stories are getting worse. Elena tells Dr. Chin during their monthly consultation. Yesterday, he told me he was responsible for recruiting American scientists during the 1980s. He gave me names, locations, specific dates. It's like he's living in some spy novel. What Elena doesn't know is that Viktor Petrov wasn't always Viktor Petrov. 60 years ago, he was Senior Lieutenant Viktor Mikhailovich Petrov of the KGB's first Chief Directorate, one of the Soviet Union's most successful deep-cover operatives. His assignment? Infiltrate American academic institutions, recruit valuable assets, and establish long-term intelligence networks that could remain dormant for decades. Viktor arrived in the United States in 1962, age 22, with a perfectly constructed identity as a Polish refugee fleeing communist persecution. His cover was flawless. He had documentation proving his parents were killed in World War II, academic credentials from the University of Warsaw, and a compelling personal story that made American immigration officials eager to help him start a new life. For 30 years, Viktor Petrov lived as the model American immigrant. He earned a PhD in mathematics from MIT, taught at several prestigious universities, married an American woman named Margaret O'Brien, and raised a daughter who never suspected her father's true identity. He recruited 17 American scientists and academics, passing their secrets to Moscow through an elaborate network of dead drops and coded communications. But in 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Viktor faced an impossible choice. His handlers in Moscow were gone, his network was compromised, and his entire life work had become meaningless overnight. Instead of returning to a Russia that no longer existed, Viktor chose to bury his past so deeply that even he couldn't access it. The human mind has remarkable protective mechanisms. Viktor's brain, trained through decades of compartmentalization and operational security, began to seal away his KGB memories like classified files locked in a vault. What his family interpreted as dementia was actually a sophisticated psychological defense system, protecting both Viktor and everyone around him from the dangerous knowledge he carried. But on this rainy Tuesday afternoon, as Elena sits across from her father discussing his medication schedule, something is beginning to change. Viktor's eyes, usually unfocused and distant, suddenly sharpen with an intensity that hasn't been there for years. "Elena," he says quietly, his voice carrying authority she's never heard before. "We need to leave. Now." "Dad, it's not time for dinner yet. We can stay here and talk." "No," Viktor says, standing with the fluid grace of someone much younger. "They're here. They found me." Elena looks around the common room, seeing nothing but elderly residents watching television and playing cards. "Who's here, Dad?" "There's nobody here but us." Viktor moves to the window, his movements precise and purposeful. For the first time in years, he doesn't shuffle or hesitate. He scans the parking lot with the systematic thoroughness of a trained operative, his eyes cataloging every vehicle, every person, every potential threat. Black sedan, Oregon plates, but the numbers are sequential, government issue. 2 men in the front seat, both watching the building. Driver has an earpiece. Passenger is holding something in his lap, probably surveillance photos. Viktor's voice is completely lucid, his observations delivered with professional precision. Elena joins him at the window, seeing exactly what he described. "Dad, how do you know all that?" Viktor turns to look at his daughter, and for the first time in 3 years, she sees the father she remembers from childhood. Intelligent, alert, protective, dangerous. "Because I've been pretending to be confused for 30 years, Viktor says quietly. "And now they found me." 2:47 p.m. Elena stares at her father in shock, her mind struggling to process what she's hearing. "Dad, what are you talking about? Who found you? Why would anyone be looking for an old math professor?" Viktor moves away from the window, his behavior completely transformed from the confused patient she's known for years. He walks with purpose, checks the room's exits, evaluates the other residents as potential assets or liabilities. This is not the behavior of a dementia patient. This is the behavior of someone with extensive training in operational security. "I need you to listen very carefully. Elena, my name is not Viktor Petrov. But that was a long time ago, in a different country that no longer exists. I was a KGB officer, deep cover, stationed in America for 30 years. Elena's first instinct is to call for the nursing staff, to treat this as another episode of confused rambling. But something about her father's demeanor stops her. His eyes are clear, his voice is steady, and the technical details he's providing are far too sophisticated for a confused mind. "That's impossible, Dad. You're Polish. You came here as a refugee. I've seen your immigration papers, your university records, your marriage certificate to Mom. All of it was constructed by the first chief directorate's documentation specialists. Legends Apartment created my entire background, including the death certificates for parents I never had and academic credentials from universities I never attended." Viktor approaches a chess set on his table. But instead of playing, he begins moving the pieces into a different configuration. The pattern means nothing to Elena, but to trained intelligence operatives, it's a recognition signal used by KGB assets to identify themselves as handlers. The car outside contains FSB operatives, Russian intelligence. They're not here to arrest me. They're here to eliminate me. For 30 years, I've been a liability they couldn't locate. Now they have. Elena's hands shake as the implications hit her. Why now? Why after all these years? Because tensions between Russia and America are escalating, and dormant assets are being activated or eliminated. Someone in Moscow decided that Viktor Petrov knows too much about networks that might still be operational. Viktor moves to a bookshelf in the common room, running his fingers along the spines until he finds what he's looking for, a copy of War and Peace that he's been reading for months. But instead of opening it to read, he flips to page 247 and carefully removes a small piece of paper hidden in the binding. "Emergency contact protocols," Viktor explains, showing Elena a series of numbers and letters that mean nothing to her. "I've been maintaining operational security, even while pretending to have dementia. Old habits are hard to break." The paper contains contact information for CIA assets, dead drop locations in Portland, and emergency extraction procedures that Viktor memorized in 1962 and has never forgotten. His apparent mental decline was a perfect cover, allowing him to maintain his intelligence network while appearing harmless to both Russian and American authorities. Dad, this is insane. Even if what you're saying is true, why are you telling me now? Why not just continue pretending? Viktor looks at his daughter with an expression of profound sadness. Because they're not just here for me, Elena, they're here for my family. Anyone who might have knowledge of my real identity or my network is a potential security risk. As if summoned by his words, Elena's phone buzzes with a text message from an unknown number. Ms. Petrov Williams, we need to speak with you about your father. We're in the parking lot. Viktor glances at the phone, then at the window where the black sedan remains parked. They're making contact. Standard protocol. Approach the family member, claim to be from some government agency. Ask for cooperation. Once they have you isolated, you become leverage against me. Elena's legal training kicks in, her mind racing through the implications. We need to call the police. If these people are threatening us, the police can't protect us from FSB operatives. Elena, these people have diplomatic immunity, unlimited resources, and the backing of a nuclear power. Local law enforcement will be outgunned and outmaneuvered. Viktor returns to the window, observing the sedan with professional interest. But they've made a tactical error. They're treating this like a simple elimination operation, assuming I'm a helpless old man with dementia. They don't know that I've been preparing for this day for 30 years. Preparing how? Viktor smiles. And for the first time since Elena was a child, she sees the sharp intelligence that made him such a successful operative. I never stopped being KGB. Elena, I just stopped letting anyone know I was KGB. The networks I built, the assets I recruited, the operational protocols I established, they're all still active. Viktor pulls out a cell phone, a device Elena thought he barely understood how to use, and sends a text message using a speed and precision that suggests extensive familiarity with modern technology. The message is simple. Package requires extraction. Authorization code Nightingale 77. Within seconds, he receives a response. Extraction team en route. Maintain position. Guardian angel active. Elena stares at her father in amazement. How long have you been? How long have you been pretending to be confused? Since the day I was diagnosed with dementia 3 years ago. The diagnosis was convenient. It explained away any unusual behavior, gave me cover to say things that would normally raise suspicions, and made me appear harmless to anyone who might be monitoring me. Viktor checks his watch, then begins moving to the common room with purpose. He approaches other residents, speaking quietly to each one. To casual observers, it looks like a confused old man bothering other patients. But Elena notices that each person he speaks to nods slightly and begins moving toward different exits. Dad, what are you doing? Activating the network. 3 of these residents are former intelligence assets. 2 others are retired law enforcement who owe favors to people I helped years ago. One is a former Special Forces operator who's been waiting 30 years for a chance to repay a debt. Elena's mind reels as she realizes the scope of her father's deception. The entire nursing home is not the entire facility, but enough people in strategic positions to provide security, communication, and extraction capabilities if needed. The FSB thinks they're dealing with one confused old man. They're actually walking into a carefully prepared defensive position. Viktor's phone buzzes again. This time the message is more urgent. Guardian Angel reports 3 additional vehicles approaching from different directions. Extraction must be immediate. Viktor takes Elena's hand, his grip strong and reassuring. We're leaving now. Stay close to me. Do exactly what I say, and don't ask questions until we're safe. Where are we going? Somewhere the FSB can't follow. Somewhere I should have taken us years ago, but I was hoping this day would never come. As they move toward the rear exit of the nursing home, Elena catches glimpses of the other residents Viktor spoke to. They're no longer behaving like confused, elderly patients. They're moving with purpose, some speaking quietly into phones, others taking positions near windows and doors. The common room has transformed from a peaceful senior care facility into a tactical operations center. Dad, who are these people? How long have they been here? Long enough, Viktor says simply, and loyal enough to risk everything when I needed them most. What they don't know is that this moment has been orchestrated by intelligence agencies on both sides of the conflict. The FSB wants Viktor eliminated because he knows too much about Russian operations that might still be active. The CIA wants him protected because his knowledge of Soviet-era networks could be invaluable in current operations against Russia. But Viktor Petrov has his own agenda. He's not interested in serving either government anymore. He just wants to protect his daughter and disappear into a life where the past can finally stay buried. Unfortunately for everyone involved, the past has other plans. 3:23 p.m. Elena follows her father through corridors of Sunset Manor that she's walked dozens of times. But everything feels different now. The elderly residents they pass nod respectfully to Viktor, not with the polite tolerance usually shown dementia patients, but with a deference given to someone in command. An orderly named Marcus, whom Elena has always considered slightly odd but harmless, approaches them near the rear exit. "Sir, the perimeter is secure, but we have multiple hostiles converging on the building. Extraction vehicle is in position at checkpoint Delta." Viktor nods to Marcus with the casual authority of a commanding officer. "How many FSB operatives total?" "We count 8, possibly more in reserve. They're using standard encirclement tactics, but they haven't accounted for our defensive positions." Elena stares at the conversation in disbelief. Marcus is part of this too. "Former Army intelligence," Viktor explains. "Recruited during a joint CIA military operation in 1987. He's been maintaining cover here for 2 years, waiting for this exact scenario." They reach the rear exit, where Viktor pauses to look back at the facility that has been his home for 3 years. It's unfortunate. This was a good cover. Comfortable, secure, completely unsuspicious. But operational security is more important than comfort. Through the reinforced glass door, Elena can see a van parked in the service alley behind the building. It looks like a standard medical transport vehicle, but the 2 people standing beside it move with the alert posture of trained operatives. "Dad, before we go any further, I need to understand something. If you've been pretending to have dementia for years, if you've been maintaining some kind of spy network, why didn't you trust me? Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Viktor pauses, his hand on the door handle. "Because the greatest gift I could give you is a normal life. You became a lawyer, built a career, married a good man, raised children who will never know the weight of carrying state secrets. That was worth any personal sacrifice. But now you're involving me. You're pulling me into this world. Because now I have no choice. The FSB's presence here means my cover is blown, and by extension, your safety is compromised. The only way to protect you is to get you out of their reach." Viktor opens the door and steps into the alley, immediately scanning for threats with the automatic awareness of someone trained in counter-surveillance. The 2 operatives by the van approach, and Elena is surprised to recognize one of them. "Mrs. Patterson?" Elena addresses the woman who has been Viktor's physical therapist for 6 months. "You're part of this too?" "Sayozan," Mrs. Patterson explains matter-of-factly. "I've been monitoring your father's situation and providing security assessment. We've been expecting Russian contact for some time." The second operative, a man Elena has never seen before, approaches Viktor with obvious respect. "Sir, we have a narrow window for extraction. Russian assets are moving to surround the building, but they haven't yet established complete coverage of the area." Viktor checks his watch, then looks at Elena. "This is your last chance to walk away. If you come with us, you enter a world where nothing is what it seems, where trust is a luxury you can't afford, and where the past never stays buried. If you stay, you face interrogation by people who don't respect American law or human rights." Elena looks back at the nursing home, then at the van, then at her father, who is clearly not the man she thought he was. "If I go with you, what happens to my life? My practice, my husband, my children?" "We protect them," Mrs. Patterson interjects. "New identities, relocation assistance, federal protection. The CIA has extensive experience in protecting the families of valuable assets. And if I stay?" Viktor's expression hardens. "Then you become a casualty in a war that officially doesn't exist, fought by people who officially aren't here, over secrets that officially were never kept. Elena makes her decision. She steps toward the van, her hand finding her father's arm. Then I guess it's time I learned who my father really is. As they approach the vehicle, Victor's phone buzzes with another message. Package secured. Initiating extraction sequence. Warning. Additional hostiles identified. FSB operation larger than initially assessed. Victor shows a message to Mrs. Patterson, who immediately radios their driver. Control, this is Shepard. We have expanded threat assessment. Request immediate backup and alternate extraction routes. The response crackles through her earpiece. Negative on backup. This is black operation. You're on your own until you reach the safe house. Victor climbs into the van, helping Elena settle into a seat that's clearly designed for tactical situations rather than comfort. The interior looks like a mobile command center, with communication equipment, maps, and what appears to be weapon storage. Where are we going? Elena asks as the van pulls out of the alley. Somewhere that doesn't exist on any official map. Victor replies. A place where people like me can disappear when the past catches up with them. As they drive through Portland's afternoon traffic, Elena watches her father transform before her eyes. The confused, shuffling dementia patient is gone, replaced by someone alert, confident, and clearly dangerous. He monitors multiple communication channels, coordinates with unseen assets, and maintains constant situational awareness. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. What is it? Mom, did she know? When she married you, when she had me, did she know who you really were? Victor's expression becomes unreadable. Your mother was the one person who knew everything. Elena. She was my CIA handler. The revelation hits Elena like a physical blow. What? Margaret O'Brien was a CIA operative assigned to monitor my activities and turn me into a double agent. Instead, we fell in love, and she became complicit in protecting my cover. Your mother died knowing secrets that could have changed the course of the Cold War. Elena stares at her father, realizing that everything she thought she knew about her family, her history, her identity was constructed around lies and deception. So what does that make me? The daughter of two spies who betrayed their country for love. It makes you the daughter of two people who chose each other over ideology, family over politics, love over duty. In our world, that makes you a miracle. The van's radio crackles with urgent traffic. All units, be advised. FSB has requested diplomatic immunity for a fugitive recovery operation on American soil. Local law enforcement has been ordered to provide assistance. Mrs. Patterson looks back at Victor with concern. They're escalating. This isn't just about eliminating you anymore. They're trying to create an international incident. Victor nods grimly, which means someone in Moscow has decided that whatever I know is worth risking a diplomatic crisis to suppress. What do you know that's so dangerous? Elena asks. Victor is quiet for a long moment, then speaks with the weight of someone carrying 60 years of secrets. I know about networks that were never shut down, assets that were never burned, operations that are still active today. The Cold War never ended. Elena, it just went underground. And now they want that information back. No, Victor says quietly. Now they want to make sure that information dies with me. What Victor doesn't tell Elena is that his knowledge extends far beyond historical intelligence operations. During his 30 years as a deep cover operative, he discovered something that could destabilize current Russian-American relations. Proof that certain high-ranking officials in both governments have been secretly collaborating for decades, using intelligence agencies to advance personal interests rather than national security. The FSB isn't trying to eliminate Viktor to protect Russian secrets. They're trying to eliminate him to protect a conspiracy that involves Americans and Russians working together to manipulate global events for profit and power. And Elena, by virtue of being his daughter, has just become a target in a war she never knew existed. 4:15 p.m. The van arrives at what appears to be an abandoned warehouse in southeast Portland's industrial district. But as they approach, Elena notices details that suggest the abandonment is carefully staged. The security cameras are too new. The rust on the building looks painted on, and the homeless encampment nearby has individuals who move with military precision. Safe house, Mrs. Patterson explains as they pull into a loading dock, off the books, maintained by assets who officially don't work for any government agency. Inside the warehouse, Elena discovers a sophisticated operations center disguised as urban decay. Behind false walls and camouflage partitions are computers, communication equipment, and what appears to be enough weapons and supplies to support a small army. Viktor moves to a facility with obvious familiarity, greeting other people who emerge from various hiding places. Elena realizes she's looking at a complete shadow organization, Americans and former Soviet operatives who have created their own intelligence network independent of any government. How long has this been here? Elena asks. Since 1991, Viktor replies. When the Soviet Union collapsed, many of us found ourselves stateless, with skills that were no longer needed by the countries we served. So we created our own organization. A woman approaches them, and Elena is shocked to recognize Dr. Sarah Chun, the psychiatrist from Sunset Manor. You're here too. Dr. Chun smiles apologetically. CIA psychiatric specialist. I've been monitoring your father's condition and maintaining his cover for 3 years. The dementia diagnosis was strategically useful. Elena turns to her father in amazement. How many people knew the truth about you? Enough to keep me safe, but not so many as to compromise operational security. The beauty of the dementia cover was that it explained away any unusual behavior while making me appear harmless to hostile intelligence services. Viktor leads Elena to a conference room where maps, photographs, and documents cover every surface. At the center is a detailed analysis of current Russian intelligence operations in the United States, with connections drawn between FSB activities and various American political and business figures. This is what they're really after, Viktor explains, pointing to a chart that links Russian oligarchs to American defense contractors. Proof that certain powerful people in both countries have been using intelligence services to advance private interests rather than national security. Elena studies the documents with her lawyer's eye for detail. This shows systematic corruption at the highest levels of government. If this information were released, it would destroy careers, topple governments, and potentially start a war, Dr. Chin finishes, which is why various parties are very interested in making sure it never sees daylight. Mrs. Patterson joins them at the table, bringing additional files. We've intercepted communications indicating that the FSB operation isn't just about elimination anymore. They're planning to extract your father and take him back to Russia for intensive interrogation. Torture, you mean? Elena says bluntly. Enhanced interrogation, Mrs. Patterson corrects diplomatically. They want to know everything he knows about current American intelligence operations, not just historical Soviet activities. Viktor examines the intercepted communications with professional interest. They're using a 7-man extraction team, plus diplomatic support. That's significant resources for one retired operative. Because you're not just one retired operative, Dr. Chin points out. You're a walking database of 60 years of intelligence operations, with knowledge that spans multiple countries, governments, and generations of operatives. Elena absorbs the scope of her father's knowledge and the danger it represents. So what's the plan? We can't hide here forever. Viktor sets down the communications intercepts and looks at his daughter with an expression she can't read. There's something I haven't told you yet, Elena. Something that changes everything. What now? The FSB isn't the only intelligence service looking for me. The CIA wants me too, for the same reasons. And so do the Chinese, the British, and at least 3 other nations whose operations I've been involved with over the years. Elena feels the walls closing in. So we're not just running from Russian agents. We're running from everyone. No, Viktor says quietly. We're not running at all. He walks to a wall map of the Pacific Northwest, pointing to locations marked with color pins. For 30 years, I've been building something that no government controls, that no single intelligence service can compromise. A network of former operatives from multiple countries who share one common goal: preventing the kind of global conflicts that destroy ordinary people's lives. Elena follows his finger as he traces connections between the pins. You're talking about some kind of international conspiracy. I'm talking about people who got tired of being pawns in games played by politicians who never faced the consequences of their decisions. Americans who were burned by their own government. Russians who were abandoned after the Soviet collapse. Europeans who were used and discarded. Asians who were recruited and forgotten. Mrs. Patterson nods in agreement. What your father created is unique in intelligence history. A truly international network with no national loyalties, dedicated to preventing conflicts rather than starting them. And now, all the governments want to shut it down. They want to control it, Viktor corrects. Which is why we can't let them capture me or anyone else who knows the full scope of the operation. Elena studies a map, beginning to understand the complexity of what her father has built. How many people are part of this network? That information is compartmentalized. Each cell knows only what they need to know to perform their function. But the total number is significant. Dr. Chin checks her watch, then turns to Viktor with concern. We're receiving reports that FBI tactical teams are being deployed to assist the FSB operation. This is escalating beyond our ability to contain it locally. Viktor nods, unsurprised, which means it's time to activate the final protocol. What's the final protocol? Elena asks. Viktor looks at his daughter with an expression of profound sadness. Complete network exposure. We release everything we know about every government's intelligence operations, creating such comprehensive mutual exposure that no single nation can act against any other without risking their own secrets being revealed. Elena realizes the implications immediately. Mutually assured destruction, but with information instead of nuclear weapons. Exactly. Once everyone's secrets are public, no one has an advantage, and the playing field becomes level. Mrs. Patterson pulls out a secure tablet, showing Viktor real-time intelligence reports. FSB and FBI teams are converging on this location. We have maybe 20 minutes before they breach the perimeter. Viktor makes his decision. Initiate the data release. All files, all operations, all connections. Send it to every major news organization, intelligence service, and government in the world simultaneously. Dad, wait, Elena interrupts. If you do this, you'll never be able to have a normal life. You'll be a target for every government on Earth. Viktor takes his daughter's hands, looking into her eyes with the love and protection she remembers from childhood. Elena, I've never had a normal life. But you can. Once this information is public, I become worthless as a target because I won't know anything that isn't already known. The danger to you ends when my secrets are no longer secret. Elena understands what her father is offering, his freedom in exchange for her safety. There has to be another way. There is, Viktor says quietly. I could surrender, let them take me, and hope that my death comes quickly enough that I don't reveal information that could get other people killed. But that would still leave you at risk, because they'd never be certain how much I told you. Dr. Chin begins typing rapidly on her computer, preparing the data release. Viktor, if we do this, there's no going back. Intelligence agencies around the world will be compromised, operations will be blown, lives will be at risk. Lives are already at risk, Viktor replies. The difference is that after today, it will be the lives of people who chose a profession, not the lives of innocent family members who were unlucky enough to be related to someone with dangerous knowledge. Elena makes her own decision. Then I'm staying with you. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Viktor starts to protest, but Elena cuts him off. You said Mom knew everything about your real identity. You said she chose love over duty. Now it's my turn to make the same choice. As sirens begin to wail in the distance, Viktor realizes that his daughter has inherited more than just his intelligence. She's inherited his courage, his loyalty, and his willingness to sacrifice everything for the people she loves. All right, he says finally, but once we do this, there's no going back to the life you knew. Are you prepared for that? Elena looks around the warehouse, at the maps and documents that represent 60 years of international intrigue, at the people who have spent decades living in shadows. I'm prepared to learn who my family really is. Viktor nods to Dr. Chun, who activates the data release sequence. Around the world, servers begin uploading 60 years of classified intelligence operations to news organizations, government agencies, and public databases simultaneously. It's done, Dr. Chin announces. By tomorrow morning, everything we know will be public knowledge. Viktor takes Elena's hand as tactical vehicles surround the warehouse. Welcome to the family business. What neither of them knows is that the data release will reveal information that goes far beyond their personal networks. Hidden in Viktor's files are the real locations of missing persons, the truth about unsolved murders, evidence of corruption that reaches the highest levels of multiple governments, and proof that several natural disasters were actually covert operations designed to destabilize target nations. The world is about to learn that the line between conspiracy theory and historical fact is much thinner than anyone imagined. And Elena Petrov Williams, immigration lawyer from Portland, Oregon, is about to become one of the most wanted people on Earth. 7:45 p.m., 3 hours after the data release, the world has changed. News organizations across 6 continents are broadcasting revelations about intelligence operations that were supposed to remain secret for generations. Government officials are resigning. Intelligence directors are being arrested, and diplomatic relations between major powers are in chaos. Elena sits in a secure communications room within the warehouse, watching the global reaction to her father's decision. Every major news network is running special broadcasts. Headlines scroll across screens in dozens of languages, and social media platforms struggle to manage the flood of information being shared and analyzed. The Russian Foreign Ministry is demanding your extradition, Mrs. Patterson reports, monitoring official government responses. The Chinese are claiming diplomatic immunity violations. The British are calling for an international tribunal. And the Americans are pretending they had no idea any of this was happening. Viktor reviews the news coverage with the calm satisfaction of someone who has successfully completed a mission decades in the making. Perfect. When everyone is angry, no one has the moral authority to act unilaterally. Elena watches footage of protesters gathering outside government buildings in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and London. Dad, people are demanding answers about operations that happened before I was born. How do you feel about potentially destroying the careers of people who might have been just following orders? Viktor's expression hardens. I feel the same way I felt about following orders to recruit American scientists and steal technology that could kill American soldiers. Some prices are too high to pay, even in the name of duty. Dr. Chin joins them, carrying a tablet with real-time intelligence assessments. The immediate tactical situation has stabilized. FBI and FSB teams have withdrawn from the perimeter, probably because their superiors are too busy dealing with the political fallout to maintain field operations. But this isn't over, Mrs. Patterson warns. Once the initial chaos settles, every intelligence service in the world is going to want revenge against the people responsible for this exposure. Viktor nods in agreement, which is why we can't stay here. The warehouse was safe when we were hiding. It's a trap now that we're exposed. Elena looks around the operations center that has been their refuge. Where do we go? If every government wants us dead or captured, where in the world is safe? Nowhere, Viktor admits. But that's been true for most of my adult life. The difference now is that I'm not hiding anymore. He walks to a wall map marked with locations around the world, but instead of pointing to remote hideouts or safe houses, he points to major cities. New York, London, Tokyo, Berlin, Moscow, the most public places on Earth. Elena stares at the map in confusion. You want to hide in plain sight? I want to make ourselves so visible that any attempt to eliminate us becomes an international incident. The data release has made us celebrities, whether we wanted it or not. That fame is our protection. Mrs. Patterson understands immediately. Media coverage, public appearances, speaking engagements. Make yourself so famous that any mysterious accident or sudden disappearance will be immediately attributed to intelligence services. Exactly. Intelligence agencies prefer to work in shadows. When the spotlight is too bright, they become